So before we get into specifically voicing, let's take a look at the theme that we're going to be working with. This theme occurs in the first movement, second movement, and fourth movement of this piece. And it is rearranged a little bit differently in each time you hear it, but it is based on the same principles. So the first time you hear it, it's actually in E minor. So the chord progression is fairly straightforward: E minor, D minor, F major, C major. That occurs in the first movement. The second time you hear that theme is in a major key. So instead of E minor, it's in G major. So it's the same basic theme. So in this case, it's G major, F major, D minor, C major. As opposed to so one goes from D to F to C, the other is F to D to C. So they are pretty closely related to each other. Again, the first one happens in the first movement, the other is in a subsequent movement. The theme gets deconstructed a little bit more as the piece goes on. Instead of just being, it becomes deconstructed to D major, D minor, E major, E minor, G major, D minor, C. So. And there are a couple other variations that one could play on that. It's not necessarily just. It also can be, this is done with French horns and trombones later. A variation is. So instead of to there, it's to. As an example. So let's look at what this last part of the theme, what that looks like when we start voicing instruments other than a Wurlitzer on it. You can do this. I'm going to concentrate on some of the more straightforward ones, grouping instruments together in families because of something that they share, and also grouping instruments together in families based on what register or the highs and lows of what they can play. So I'm going to start with oboe, and the theme that I'm going to be working with is a variation on the first couple that I just played, and it's. So what I've done is I already have a bunch of recordings in Audacity, so I don't have to play them all at the exact same time. But the way that they're going to sound like when we go through the voicing ideas is with a click track, and they're all going to start with a couple of notes that bring us into the melody, and then the melody progresses. So, for example. that makes a lot of sense. There is an alternate to this melody, which is part of the harmony that goes. So just using oboes, let's see what that sounds like. Which it sounds interesting, but just having oboes playing with oboes, maybe not the most engaging thing. So one of the things that I like to do when dealing with families of instruments is bringing in something that's related. So I'm a huge fan of bassoons. I have a bassoon track that's laid down here, and it's still just the mirrored track of the original theme. So let's see what that sounds like. Okay, it sounds pretty neat. It has a different character when it's more than one woodwind playing with each other, or sorry, more than one woodwind playing. And if we decide to add a little bit more character by putting in some of the harmony, I think you'll see that the voicing really starts bringing out something a little bit special about this theme as it's played. Of course, that's not the only way that you can voice this. Having two oboes and a bassoon, again, that is a really it sounds really nice, but it can be better. There are things that can be done that can make it even better. So, in addition to that, I have a piccolo, which is another member of the woodwind family that goes really well with oboe and bassoon. So this is they are all just mirrored. Let's see what they sound like. One of the things that a professor was really adamant about when I was going to music school is the addition of instruments to other instruments. It creates a new sound, and that becomes really evident when you start listening to even just simple instruments like bassoon, oboe, and piccolo playing together. They sound different. They have a different feel than if, say, just the piccolo was playing. So if I put that on mute and I put that on mute, this has a much different feeling than if I add just the bassoon back. It gives it a more thick, more woody sounding instrumentation, and even without the mirrored oboe, if I play the harmonic oboe part, it sounds even more different if you think of it as a complete instrument in and of itself. I'm using the BBC Symphony Orchestra patches from Spitfire Audio, which are fantastic. As a former clarinet player, I'm not enthused about their clarinet patches, but I think in other products that they sell, they might have them improved. So I will grin and bear it, but it does serve as a representative sample of what this can sound like. So this is a clarinet harmony. Clarinets are usually either tenor or alto. Sometimes soprano. They're called soprano clarinets, but sometimes they're played in the lower register. Sometimes they play in mids. Just depends on how you want to how you want to tackle the instrument. But in this composition, they're playing on the alto register of the clarinet, and by themselves, this is what they sound like. So there's some harmony there. It's a two-part harmony, which then goes to a three-part harmony at the very end. So let's bring in our piccolo, oboe, and bassoon. And let's see what this woodwind quartet sounds like for this part of the composition. I think it's going to sound a lot different than just each instrument played by itself. That gives a really, really nice full woodwind section that has a particular character that, and we will find out about other sections and how they work, but it gives a very specific character in symphonic scores that is the kind of a pastoral sense or a calming and soothing um, uh, uh, type of melody and theme discussion that you can't really get with other types of instruments, which we'll talk about those here in just a minute.